such as many families been present here tonight. I'd like to thank host families on behalf of Belarusian and Ukrainian parents, because it's the parents who really appreciate, as well as the children of course, what is being done. You are saving their children, you are giving their children a chance to survive.
You're writing a book, but so far no book has helped. Explain it to me. No more than the theatre or the movies. I figure it out without them, by myself.
There was no sign.
We're all going through this alone, and we don't know what to do.
Sometimes your palm itches, and you know to get ready. But today, no signs. Well, Nightingale sang all night. That means a sunny day.
We don't know what to do. I want to love. I try to love. I pray for my love.
And my first reaction was to call my wife and warn her. But all our telephones at the Institute were bugged. That eternal fear beaten into us through the decades.
The first fear came out of the blue, over water.
My family didn't know. My daughter...
father is particularly bewildered.
At this moment, my daughter would be walking to school with friends, outside.
My father is confused. He does not know how to live without the Council of Books, without Chekhov and Tolstoy, and all the old Greek masters. We lived in Pripyat, just 3 miles from the reactor. I was born and bred there, and we were very happy about it. Remember? I want to remember, and at the same time I don't.
Shut the windows.
Hi, Papa.
Is your mother home?
No, Papa. The hospital called and she had to go to work.
Listen to me very closely.
He lived in the hostel, at the fire station where he worked. Below us on the first floor were the fire engines, red fire engines. That was his work.
Shut the windows.
I heard the noise. He saw me and said, "Go back to sleep. There's a fire at the reactor. I'll be back soon."
I did not see the explosion itself, only the flames. Everything seemed to flow.
What do you see out there?
Flames cover the whole sky.
And it was still out.
Okay, quiet. Careful now. Shut the windows. Put all the food in plastic bags.
What?
It's all right. Put on rubber gloves and wipe every surface.
Closed window. It looks like an ordinary fire being put out by ordinary firemen. The streets are filled with military machines. All the roads are closed. They're washing the streets with a white powder.
They went off to the fire without their protective gear, just in their shirt sleeves. They were summoned as if to a normal fire. I sat and waited. 4 o'clock.
I'd go to church, where it was so quiet.
5.
The way it is in the mountains sometimes.
6.
So quiet. You can forget your life in there.
7 o'clock.
That day, April the 26th, I was in Moscow on a business trip.
The first fear was, in the morning, we found dead moles in the garden. Who killed them?
I ran to the hospital, but police would not let anyone in. Only ambulances could drive in. The policeman shouted, "The ambulances are radioactive. Don't get close." I was not alone. All the wives whose husbands were at the reactor that night were there. I grabbed onto a doctor as she walked by. "Get me inside, please, just to see him."
Special draft. Show up with your things at the following address within an hour. When my mother heard, she was weeping. She thought they were sending me to war again.
"Now listen," she said. "The central nervous system is completely damaged. The bone marrow is completely destroyed." "All right, so he'll be a bit nervous. And listen, if you cry, I'll throw you out straight away. You may not hug or kiss. Don't come close. You have half an hour.
Get in the van.
They came suddenly, and a special van was waiting downstairs.
I called once, 2, 3 times, but they wouldn't put me through.
There are secrets. People say prayers in private, whispering.
I reached an assistant. I'm calling from Moscow. I have urgent information about an accident. As soon as I started talking about the accident, they disconnected.
Where are we going? I've only got this paper.
We're going to Chernobyl.
To the fire.
It was put out.
I got hold of someone else. According to my calculations, the radioactive cloud is moving towards us. We must immediately give prophylactic iodine treatment.
My reports say the situation has now stabilised.
I put my arms around him and kissed him. He moved away. Don't sit next to me. It is all nonsense, I said, waving it off. Did you see where the explosion was? You were the first ones there. I think it was sabotage. Someone did it on purpose. All the guys think that. That's what people said then, and that's what they believed. The next day when I arrived, I couldn't go near him.
It takes 14 days for a man to die.
The nearby towns will be evacuated. We'll clean the zone around the reactor, and in a few days' time, the people will be home again.
Mother, we're leaving. They're evacuating us.
We're going to be evacuated.
They say they'll just wash everything and then we'll be back home in a few days. I borrowed some of your earth to guide me back home. Forgive me for leaving you.
The hospitals will remain open so that necessary medical aid can be given to those affected.
14 days. It's all mine, every bit. I can't say it. You can't write about it. There was an apple on his nightstand, a big one. He smiled and said, "They gave me a treat, you take it." The nurse signals me through the plastic curtain, but I cannot eat the apple. If it's been near him for a while, just being near it, much less eating it, is dangerous. "Come on, eat it," he asked. "You love apples?" I pick it up. The nurse looks at me in horror. But me? I was ready to do whatever was necessary to keep him from thinking about death, or that his illness was horrible, that I was afraid of him.
And 3 or 4 drops for adults.
My superiors received a phone call from Moscow. Something about not starting a panic in Belarusia. The West is making too much of it already.
There was a rumour that removing the books was an order from the authorities to keep people from being terrified, so that we could not
You can imagine for yourselves the consequences.
Birds kept smashing into the windscreens of cars and buses as if they were blind. They were crazed, flying into the windscreens or under the wheels. It was a kind of suicide.
There are warehouses full of iodine in the city.
The word panic, do you know where it comes from?
From the Greek, Pan. He was a mischief maker. The god of woods and fields who created mysterious sounds.
He tried to teach the people. The driver looked back and said, "Don't worry, comrades. The situation is under control. Nothing to worry about. People are living and working here."
I'm just killing time, really, until I become a real writer. It's hard to get known without a real war. Now I'm just a cameraman. But that will change soon. In September, the first cool nights came. Then the leaves on the trees began to turn colour, and we knew the summer was gone.
Hemingway, A Farewell to Arms?
Yes,
I
it's
hate
mine.
that book. Here are the orders. We are cleaning Chernobyl for the residents. We'll be paid for a workday, plus a bonus, 30 rubles. Here we are. Sign this.
We can't tell anyone what we've seen there.
Or what
I caught myself filming the scene the way it had been played in wartime movies. They loaded them onto large tourist buses. This remains etched on my memory. A girl waving to her mother, as if to say everything is fine, she is brave. And she gives a little victory sign.
Here's what it was. At home, the level was 30,000 units an hour. People were sowing and ploughing. Out on the boulevard, people were selling meat pies, ice cream, hamburgers, bread. under a radioactive cloud. I tried to explain. A woman said, What's
radiations?
What's that?
that?
Röntgens, micro-röntgens, extraterrestrial language.
Fairy tales, just fairy tales. What radiations? Do you see the world outside? The fire had been put out, and everything's growing in the garden. The apple trees are in bloom. How can you talk about radiation?
On April the 30th, high levels of radiation were recorded in Switzerland and northern Italy.
The nurse said I was sitting next to a reactor.
On May the 1st and 2nd, radiation was detected in France, Belgium, the Netherlands,
14
Great Britain
days.
and northern
Takes
Greece.
14 days. It's all mine. Every bit. Every day I heard, died, died, Andre died.
On May the 4th, gaseous airborne particles registered in Japan.
I turned around, and he was getting 3 carnations from under his pillow. He had paid a nurse to get them.
Come on. From Moscow. Everything is fine. The government commission is at work, and the procurator's office. They have sent in the army and the military technology.
Night. Quiet.
Don't worry, comrades. The situation is under control. Nothing to worry about. People are living and working here. Look, just 10 days after the accident, and the red flag is already waving over reactor number 4.
A month later, it had been eaten by the high radiation.
I didn't film that.
He was no longer in an ordinary room, but in a special barochamber behind a clear plastic curtain, and no one was admitted inside. They had special mechanisms to be able to give shocks and insert catheters without getting inside the curtain, but it was held together by tabs and locks. And I learned how to use them, open them, and get through to him. There was a little chair next to his bed. He was in such a bad way that I could not leave him, not for a minute. He called to me constantly. Where are you? He called and called.
The soldiers looked like extraterrestrials, walking down the street in a white camouflage and masks.
The other barrachambers with our guys were serviced by soldiers because the staff orderlies refused to work without special protective clothing. The soldiers carried bedpans, washed floors, made the beds. They did everything. Where did the soldiers come from? I never asked.
Our land is already covered by thousands of tons of cesium, iodine, lead, zirconium, cadmium.
I remember a piece of conversation in my memory. Someone telling me,
You must not forget, what is in there is no longer your husband, the man you love, but a radioactive object with a high density of contamination.
I wanted to do everything myself. If I could have stood it physically, I would have been by his side 24 hours a day. I hated losing a single minute, even 1 minute.
Fairy tales, just fairy tales.
You must win and conquer. Conquer what? Conquer the atom. Conquer physics.
I love him. I love him. He sleeps, and I whisper, I love you. I walk through the hospital courtyard, and I whisper, I love you. I remember how we lived before, on the 2nd floor, above the fire engines. Your father wanted to call you Natasha. She looked healthy, hands and feet, but it turned out she had cirrhosis of the liver. The liver showed 28 units, and congenital heart defects. 4 hours later, they told me that the girl had died, and once again, they would not give her to me.
Sign this.
Can I see her?
We cannot give her to you. She belongs to the state.
I won't give her to you. You just want her for your science, and I hate your science. I hate it. It took him away from me, and now it wants her. I won't hand her over, and I will bury her myself. Next to him.
The sun doesn't shine right in other places.